Welcome to A's Linguistics. This channel is about all things linguistic. So let's see what we've got today. I want to talk about what is it that you get inside a word. In order to understand word structure, there's 4 concepts you need to learn. Affix, root, stem, base. I guess we already know what affixes are and we have discussed roots. I may have referred to the word stem, but now I want to make the distinction crystal clear. Every word is made of a base and 1 or more affixes or 0 affixes. So the word word contains no affix, but the word prefix has the affix pre plus the root fix. And the word delimit has de as affix, which is a prefix. So affix is the umbrella term to refer to all kinds of affix, which could be a prefix or a suffix in English. So it could be d. So d is the affix in delimit, and then in humanize the affix is ize. So in delimit de is prefix, and in humanize it is ize. But in dehumanize we have both a prefix and a suffix, right? So for now you know the affix, you know the base. So the word base or share or stem, these are monomorphemic words, okay? They have just one morpheme, which is the base. But if there is a base plus at least 1 affix, it could be more, then it becomes a complex word. It could be 1 affix like humanize, it could be more than 1 affix like dehumanize. Just be careful not to confuse complex word with compound word. Okay, so you might ask, what is the difference between base and stem and root and affix? You already know affix, and I introduced base roughly. First, I'm going to compare root and base, then we will discuss the stem later. So an affix attaches to the stem, okay? I just told you that the affix attaches to the base. So now I have to clarify the difference between base and stem. So the base may or may not be a word itself. For example, in delimit, limit is already a word. It's a free morpheme, right? It's also a word. Or it may be bound, like, do you remember unkempt? Kempt was bound. It's not used as a separate word. Unkempt is a word, kempt is bound. So look, I know it's a bit confusing. So first of all, you need to make a distinction between root and stem. So totally separate, okay? A stem could be root plus some affix. Sometimes the stem and root are the same, but sometimes they're different, okay? An affix attaches to the stem, and then, but an affix could also attach to the root to render a stem. Okay, I will give you, so I want to get a bit abstract first and then give you some examples. The stem may or may not be a word. That is, it may or may not be free. Consider the word activity, okay? So activity consists of active plus ity. So here, stem is active. Active is the stem. And what is ity? Ity, I-T-Y, is the affix. But what is a root? The root is act. For activity, the stem is active, but the root is act. But if you want to analyze the word active, what is the stem for this? Act. So active equals act plus if, okay? So the stem is act, the root is also act. The root for both activity and active is act. The stem for active is still act, so in active, both the root and the stem are the same. But in activity, the root and stem are different. So stem could be root plus nothing or root plus something. Or in your mind, you can always think of stem equals root plus something, but something could be nothing. This is probably the most clear example because it also clarifies the difference between root and affix. So you might say, what is the difference between if and act? So you might ask, why do we say if is the affix and act is not the affix? So why don't we say if is the root and act is the affix? Because if you have to look at the meaning of active, the core meaning of active is about act. It's not about if. If by itself doesn't have any meaning. It's just added to a stem to render a new meaning. And that's the thing about affixes. They usually don't have a clear meaning. They usually have a function. For example, if here functions in the sense that it turns act, which is a verb, into an adjective. But active is still about act. So the core meaning of active is in act, it's not in if. And that's how you distinguish between affixes and roots. So the root carries the core semantic content of a word. So now we need to know the distinction between base and stem. Okay, so you could say base and stem are almost like it could be used interchangeably. Stem is also referred to as the base, especially if a derivational affix is attached to it. If the affix is inflectional, it is more likely that we use the term stem. So it's a bit of a technicality here. So for example, here in activity, you could call active the base. You could call it even in active, because this is derivational, it changes the category, of course, the grammatical category. You can still talk about act as the base. But now you might say, okay, what is the example of an inflectional affix? For example, if I say he runs in the park, here you see we are having an inflectional affix. So here we would talk about the stem. We wouldn't usually talk about the base. So let me give you more examples about stem and root. The word in readability, readable is the stem or base, but read is the root. Okay. In reader, there's both root and stem are read. But in readability, the stem or the base, and I say base because it is derivational, readability, the base is readable. Thanks for your time and attention, and see you again soon.